modes and effect analysis is during the failure mode, what best damage control one can do and come up with the latest initiative in order to overcome certain problems which may be due to certain failures in HR, maybe in marketing, maybe in finance, whatever is scarce. Okay, many resources are scarce, but then failure mode and effect analysis, what is the effect of, let us say, a sudden change in the price fuels? So how to deal with those happenings? Contingency plan B you should have. So failure mode plan B you should have. If something goes wrong, if you don't have so many ambulances, then where to get those things? So how to mix and match the opportunities vis-a-vis the risk, what is associated with that. Then analyze the root cause of the problem, why it is happening at all in the first place. Then histograms you have to draw. How many times, how many months ago, how many weeks ago it had happened? What is the record? What does the record show? What is the kind of multivariable channel, charts and the hypothesis? Now, because of A, let us say, why speed driving happens, whether it is alcohol testing or people, the police is busy in doing some other thing, collecting fines when the standards have not been met, at least in case of social requirements. Similarly, in healthcare hospital, whether the parking space is not there or not, or people are, the doctors themselves are facing some kind of problem while parking, or there is no parking facility nearby, they have to hire them in front of the hospital, something like that. So what are the cause of problems that there are so many people are facing on a day-to-day basis, including the facilities, including the kind of pharmaceutical goods, including the alternative medicines, each and everything. One has to have an hypothesis and analyze, and you have a regression analysis. So this is another tool in the analyze. Then improve. In case of improve, we got solution matrix. Okay, you have to create a solution selection matrix on which day, how far we are able to meet those standards. The previous control chart which I have given, how many times you are able to have in the nearby average kind of performance for the hospital. Okay, some days are weak, some days are strong. We cannot avoid it altogether. There's a given, there's a given in life. So to be process where we have to be, where we are now as of now, and where we have to reach, and how much of improvement has happened. So that is known as DMAIC. C is control, the control process, and sustain the gains. So control charts are panned out. Contingency and action plans are taken care. Excuse me. Just after. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for the disturbance. So first of all, if a problem occurs, what are the factors that led to the problem has to be understood. Okay. So there is delay in, let us say, discharge. So you have to identify one, whether there was an administrative mistake, whether there was a billing mistake, whether there was a slow process by the nurse in order to acknowledge what all things have to be done, whether there was a mistake in cleanliness itself, okay, or whether insurance is doing a very slow. So what all factors are leading to that output has to be aligned, has to be properly understood. So the project charter has to be wrote because of one, so many mistakes can occur. So the 80-20 Pareto analysis, what we call it. Then cost of poor quality. If you do a slow job, how loss making it will be. So that is known as cost of poor quality. What is going to lead, and what the stakeholders are. Voice of the stakeholder. How the management committees and board of directors are visualizing it. What they want. How the CEO or the MD, managing director, is looking at things. So voice of the stakeholder is also taken, not just voice of the customer or the patient in this case, but voice of the stakeholder taken, and you have to define DMAIC project. So in this DMAIC, what is the cost of this problem actually? How much loss making on a day-to-day basis it is happening just because of fewer mistakes which we can overcome easily. So who are the stakeholders and decision makers? Okay, who are those powerful people who are running this organization? Some could be sometimes it could be the finance people who are running it. Sometimes it could be the IT people who are doing a lot of job. Sometimes it could be the sales and marketing who are good at it on some years, and some years the doctors are very good. We cannot say which department is more or less more promising in order to deliver qualitative services. So who are those stakeholders or decision makers? So that is very important. So align the resources and expectations. So align all these resources vis-a-vis this expectation. So setting the expectations and setting all these resources is very critical for people who are handling all these middle-level management concepts.
Excuse me, sir. There
Yeah.
is something left in the previous slide.
Okay.
After improve.
Okay. Let me go back. We have a control. Okay. Yeah. We are telling about the control, the process to sustain the gains, right? So what happens is in the process of improving, we forget what is control. So the DMAIC tells about finally to achieve this level of control, like control charts and sharing those charts along with all the people concerned, and contingency or action plan. Right, every problem will have a different type of solution, or it could be a solution with 2 to 3 different. As we began with a brainstorming session, it could have a solution with the combined approaches of all the departments involved. So control process could be achieved beginning from strategically defining, then measuring, analyzing, and improving. Because more or less, if everybody improves, then they're quite happy in terms of getting the incentives that he has improved and all. But control factor is left to more or less the mid level and top level management, who are more bothered about supervisory activities and preparing the report. So these reports basically are the control charts, which either at the end of the day or the end of the week, these will be able to have it informed decision making for us, and the regular charts will be able to gauge the probability of deviations, which we have just now saw in the Six Sigma concepts, a part of which could be implemented from this kind of a methodology. So the implementation of Six Sigma could be reached by using those control charts only. Okay, so good that these charts, of course, I suppose some of the charts which we had discussed, statistical control charts, quality charts, process charts, flow charts. Okay, you can have bar chart, pie chart, so many charts could be there, but it's a part of the overall control strategy at the end of this methodology, whereby beginning with define what is important for us, what matters to us, how we are going to measure with CTQ, what is critical to quality, and then having the variables and hypothesis test that because of A, B is happening, this is a hypothesis. Because of certain independent variable, the dependent variable B is being influenced. So analyze, then you have to develop a matrix, and what is the process map. You have to map the entire processes, and those sometimes those maps have to be made into chart and shown on the walls, so that every department will have some amount of mapping of the procedures, so that they know, any newcomer will automatically know what should be done without even asking or referring to the manual. It should be very close and readable, and those process maps have to be shown, and so that on a day-to-day basis the charts will be generated easily. So this was what I suppose that was the question, right? Control part. Now, in this case, we'll take an example like courier package handling process. Okay, the mail receiving it, the another person is sorting it, the in-sort supervisor is handling it. Then does everyone agree how the current process works, or simply is working like accounts receivable in one department, accounts receivable working another way, wait fee clerk is there, and accounts department, account supervisor is trying to write the total fee involved. So there is disconnect between several processes, which one has to define as a process. How does the entire process work? Okay, where it comes from, accounting, financing, and delivery. So how these two pathways in accounting on the left hand side, on finance, finalizing and delivery of the courier services, is just a case in point example. That's all, not very seriously to look at, and how it is sorted out. So there should be systematic pigeonholes and manually labeling it, or RFID technology with labeling and scanning it. So how easily it could be sorted out as per the various areas. So even in case of courier services also, this kind of arrangement of mapping can be done. Now, a little bit of, sorry, it's going ahead automatic. Yeah. So what is critical to quality? Okay. So listening posts. Okay, no, very few people are there who go fast enough and they don't give any damn attention to the customer service professionals or the receptionists who are sitting. Okay, but even that is important. So customer correspondence by sending a pleasantry email during his, when he's charging to getting discharged, and saying thank you and communicating with him is also equally important. So industry benchmark, what the secondary research says, that how industry recognizes all these parameters. First is voice of the customer has to be noted down. Whether he is really happy about all the services which we are providing has to be noted down on scale of 10. That is the net promoter score we'll get. What was the key customer issue that was really faulty or which faced some defects has to be noted down. And what out of those, what are very essential for development of our quality? How does it impact our overall processes? Has to be derived from this. So not that everything, whatever the customer is telling is important. Some of that could be the key customer issue. Some out of these key customer issues could be critical to our maintenance of quality. So that's how we have to divide the task into subtasks. And finally, you have to arrive at some conclusive, you can say, quintessence of what does quality mean for us. Whether we are very slow kind of organization where everything is delayed, or process wise we have not been able to identify certain defects, and what way the customers are facing the issues, in what aspects or what dimensions the customers are facing these issues. We have to define this customer requirement. So unless you define these customer requirements, what is critical to quality, we will not understand in the first place what the exact meaning of quality, especially in the service industry like healthcare, whereby patient satisfaction, patient safety is of our prime concern. What is critical to our quality could not be easily understandable unless we define this. So this is the first step, as we were calling it DMAIC. So measure, what we call, is nothing but again the same thing, the qualitative descriptive statistics with mean, median, mode, and average and standard deviations. And why these deviations are happening could be understood from Pareto chart. So sample of some amount of data, not that all the data is very compulsory taken along. Some sample data as to overall averages it will speak about. Not that we have done a bigger offense that by not taking feedback from some of the customers. Not on an average, at least out of, let us say, if 100 people are there, at least 10 to 15 people should have given the feedback, and basis on which current processes are actually measured against the customer expectations has to be quantified. And then what is the chance that we will succeed at this every time? Because we normally say that 80% of the defects what's happening is out of main 20% of the issues. So this Pareto comes across how many times the defect has happened. Okay, as little as like changing of the beds, for example, changing of the beds, or changing of the pillows in a ward, or changing of, like, you can say, curtains, or you can say cleaning of the room itself, you can say. So as far as facilities are concerned, you can have a Pareto chart. Or how many times, how fast enough at the ring of a bell the customer comes uh, in total contact with the entire nurses and the staff members. So how much time of deviation is there, that could be recorded easily. And we'll have these descriptive statistics where we stand on a day-to-day basis. So this kind of chart will derive, and will finally come out with every activity being mapped actually. So everything will be measured on the baselines and capability. How fast, how far we are good at doing certain things, how bad are we in certain other things. So this is our capability. Baselines and measurement. What is our standard baseline? What kind of deviations are we able to measure? So that is about measurement. Failures and risks. So where does our processes fail? Okay, where do we end up failing? Or sudden we have to shift the patient to some other hospital because we don't have the facility to do that, or while doing it we did not have ambulance or something. So where exactly our bottlenecks are, so that has to be identified. Failure mode and effects analysis. Okay, or where does the financial crunch comes in, or suddenly there is a difference between the insurance. He says insurance is not totally covered, and there is a litigation between the insurance company and the hospital. So anywhere, it could be in the finance, it could be operations, it could be in ambulance, it could be having better and clean and hygienic atmosphere. So failure modes, where exactly we are finding the faults and failures with, and where there are risks that it will create a bad image in the society. So these kind of things is a high risk profile. How many times it's occurring? So whether 5 times it's occurring in a week or in a fortnight, how many times? So this is what we have to write down in a process chart, that it will show potential, that how weakness will become threats. So we have the SWOT analysis, right? So strengths of the organization, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. So we have, as we already seen, the number of opportunities, like in a million opportunity, there should be 3.4. Okay, possible level of failures that we have to see, but in reality it will not be only 3.4. There are multiple failures happening day in and day out in certain hospitals, so that we have to reduce. So we have to take the course correction, current, and amend and recommend some actions immediately. You have to have any responsible person give the guidance, take the actions, and note them, the expected date, the EOD, at the end of which we have to have this kind of a chart known as failure mode and effects analysis chart. It is known as FMEA chart, or the process or the product with which, what is the process you are write on. It could be applicable for so many processes. Who is responsible for that particular process, including report making, including guiding, including taking briefing and taking debriefing, each and every department which we are concerned about. This failure modes and effect analysis chart, or the process or product chart, could be filled by a certain group of people, especially the supervisor, beginning with, not below them, of course, but above, mid level and top level included. Then analyze them. So this is what we are talking about, the Ishikawa diagram, in which at the tip of the fish we have some kind of a problem. Then one of the stems of the fish, or wings of the, you can say. So it will have HR problem. Another wing will show sales and marketing problem. Another wing will show maintenance problem. Another wing will show operational problem. Another wing will show your supply chain problem. So this Ishikawa diagram, fishbone diagram, will try to deal with occurrence of a problem. There is one problem here in at the tip of the fish mouth, and we have to identify the root cause analysis. This is what we call potential root causes, where exactly we are doing and identifying those mistakes, whether technical error or a manual error or a HR error or a training error, what error it is which led to this kind of a potential cause of a particular problem. But you have to consider one problem at a time. You can't have all the problems at one time. At one point, you have to consider repeated mistakes happening on a regular frequency. So you have a mistakes happening again and again. Then you have to note down what kind of a root cause analysis one can arrive at by drawing this chart. This is how one was able to make it more simpler. So y is happening out of the factor or function of x1, x2, x3. This is what we are able to identify. Okay, a particular thing is happening because, let us say, absence of certain materials, or absence of regular medicines, or presence of generic medicines, or you can say absence of skilled manpower, or there is no manpower only in certain cases in certain countries. Okay, so y is equal to factor of x1, x2, x3 up to x9. Whatever reasons are there, we can note down these reasons and try to conclude what were the root causes of that. Analyze. So what are the key root cause? Then experimental design used, and then statistical data will give the stratification, what kind of customers are facing them. Okay, then you have a lab test analysis. Then you got regression, how long it has been happening and due to what factors it has been happening. So basically, it's about the processes which we are talking about, not the health of the patient, just not exactly only the health, but everything surrounding the support systems as well. Means not just what doctors and nurses are doing. That of course it is a given thing that around which only will have to revolve the entire processes, because all other things are what? All other things are able to support. These are other things are supporting activities, but if support systems are not good, then how can the main things be good? So that's why we have to analyze what is wrong in the entire hospital as such. Then improve the potential solutions. How can we address the root cause? So you have to generate, clarify, and evaluate the decisions. You have to come to decisions. There could be divergent reasoning, there could be convergent reasonings. Okay, we can differ in various ways. The ideas address the causes. Okay, don't try to address only the symptoms. Most of us make the mistakes of identifying that just at the face value. We'll take that at the face of it. It looks like the only the two people involved in the committing the mistakes are the pure offenders. It is not like that. We have to go to the root cause. Maybe issues or dimensions which are not related to the people who are at the forefront, who are involved in that kind of a conflict. Maybe the real reasons. That's what scientifically we have to note down, document enough, dig deep, investigate, then find the causes, which will lead to divergent views or convergent views. That's a different take altogether. But then we have to generate ideas at least for the sake of having a neat discussion. Otherwise, it could lead to argument. So we are not at all arguing. Okay, we are not trying to enter into arguments with anyone. We are just discussing the problems, what the existing kind of a situation or the context in which the management is functioning. Because eventually, management is not any kind of pure science as such. Management is purely contextual in nature. Any kind of sciences which is related to the management, including healthcare management, has to be studied in that context. Unless and until there is a particular context, we cannot generate ideas, we cannot have brainstorming sessions, we cannot clarify, and we cannot evaluate, because the decision has to be an informed decision. It should not be based on moods, emotions, okay, fads, or sometimes whims and fancies, nothing of that sort. So improve the potential solutions based upon the statistical significance of the data which is at our hand, and everybody should sit and discuss what's essentially wrong with this kind of a statistic. Now improve the solution. So how do we choose the best solution? Okay, now you have to have the three parameters as we already know. First is quality, second thing is cost, third thing is time. Okay, these are all interrelated. So in order to get these three dimensions of cost, quality, and time, we have to write solution number one. At what level? Sigma level 1 or sigma level 2. We have to note down, and then we have to note down the score. Then there is some separate certification in Six Sigma. Then it will take around 2 to 3 months in order. This is just the superficial, or they can say surface knowledge which we are touching upon. And then you have to write solutions 1, 2, 3 combined solutions. You have to write down. Then we have to mix and match whether this is a nice try. You have a solution here, and then implementation, whether bad or good, right or wrong, you have to note down here. Whether solution is good, whether implementation is good, then if both are solution is right and good, then we'll have a happy customer or a happy individual, or rather the employee also. If it's a wrong solution but the implementation is good, it's a nice try. But if the solution is right, it is just a nice idea, because implementation is not there, no. So it's a bad implementation. If the solution is also wrong and implementation is also bad, then it is X. Okay, it's of no use. If idea as well as implementation are not matching, there's a disconnect. So one has to know from what perspective the idea is good or not, whether at the implementation stage people are facing the bottlenecks, what kind of methodology in quality, cost, and time, what it is saving, in fact. Okay, whether it is saving some cost, it's adding to a lot of profit, or whether it is adding some value for the quality, or it is reducing the time of the people who are engaged in doing that work. So all these parameters can be noted down both in terms of solution of ideas and generation of ideas and implementation of those ideas, not just keep on generating the ideas, okay? Because it's a solution selection matrix. So cost-based analysis you have to do. Time, cost, sigma. Sigma is nothing but your quality, time, cost. Okay, so your quality, time, and cost, and other things also you have to mention here. Other things. Any other thing affecting other than this time, cost, and but normally it is these three things only. It's quality, cost, and time only which you have to measure all the time, because that's how it has been implemented in all other industries. And if other than that, if you find several other things, you write down other reasons to improve. So this is what is improvement. Then you of course you got a score finally. So coming to control, which are nothing but sustainable benefits. So some deviation is seen here all the time. Some variation is normal and it could be acceptable, that is okay. But then how high or how low X can go, yet not materially impact the Y. So X axis, Y axis, observation number, then indicative value. Low and high, low and high, it goes on and on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So control is sustainable benefits over a long period of time. These mistakes should go on reducing. Like when you have, in case of most of the doctors are unable to identify the root cause of the BP as well as the sugar. It says the stress is the only reason the patient feels that it will lead to certain, in some other patients it will appear as BP, whereas some other patient will appear as diabetes. So of course, that's a health aspect. We will not touch that. That is left to the doctors. Right now, we are about healthcare operations management. So what we are talking about, what are the sustainable benefits? How these errors can be reduced over a period of time? We'll have a control chart to measure them. Then again, of course, I don't have to necessarily go through that. Design the new processes and reduce the older processes. Replace the old processes, whereas improvement shows some improvement kind of a thing. Projects typically take longer than 4 to 6 months. Okay. The extensive definition of customer requirements. Many times we have to take definition of how the customer sees it, how we are, but we cannot go on discussing with the customer. We have to know it ourselves. So heavy emphasis on benchmarking and simulation exercises is more given these days important. So the same thing you can have sometimes if you have a time you can watch simulation exercises of this Six Sigma, or you can have YouTube wherein you have simulation games in which these many mistakes, how should be reduced, whether the cost can be reduced or the time can be reduced or the quality can be improved. So all these things, there are simulation games. Of course, it goes beyond the scope of our normal class. So that is known as multi-generational planning and quality function deployment, QFD. So it has to happen across. So suppose you have 2 to 3 people who are very experienced. They will give some idea, but all those ideas are not implementable in the real life. So you should have multi-generational planning. So some of them can be implemented, some could be discarded. Then we have quality function deployment. So once you identify these are the qualities which is critical for the operations, then you have to deploy that quality and try to improve. So improvement and measurement happens once you design what kind of expectations are there. So you've seen little bit of methodologies which you have seen, but now focus on Six Sigma is not all that simple. It's not just hang a cake at the end of the week. So it will take around 4 to 8 months of time to understand and replicate the same thing over a period of time. So the financial results and profitability and improving quality, cost, and time will show them to appear, become measurable over a period of time. So ensuring Six Sigma is the extension of the corporate culture, not the program of the month. It's not a campaign that you implement it 1 month and suddenly second month some other parameters become important for you, and in third month some other government notification will come, and fourth month you will have altogether different kind of parameters. It cannot go on and on like this. So ensuring Six Sigma is an extension of the corporate culture into the healthcare field. It's not a program of the month just because of some campaigns started, okay, by people who are outside the stakeholders. So results first and then culture change. Okay, first is the results. So it is first the results on which one has to face, then culture will automatically change. The culture here means the work culture which we are talking about. In some cities, the work culture is fast. In some other cities, the work culture may be slow. It all depends upon what kind of anthropological reasons they are coming up with. So first of all, it is a systematic analysis of where the problem lies and what are we trying to identify the problem. The focus of Six Sigma lies in the results first approach, in which we are able to measure something statistically, come to the mean, measure, median, mode, and standard deviation, and find out certain DMAIC and fishbowl and diagram, and trying to identify with some statistic, and able to focus on this Six Sigma so that measurable quantitative developments can be happening with not much of relational cannot become so much aspirational in terms of qualitative dimensions as of now, because we are just taking this purely from the quantitative aspects. Okay, because Six Sigma is more or less measuring the entire thing. So there is one black belt certification Six Sigma. So practitioners of black belt Six Sigma are employed by the company using Six Sigma methodology. Sometimes they are hired also as consultants. They will implement it for 4 to 6 months, and then they will go back to the normal life. The hospital is not having any much kind of association once it is implemented. It is left to the people who are implementing it, because ideas are generated, and then some people work full time on the implementation of the problem, because a core committee will be formed and statistical techniques to the project selected basis. Those who are interested, they can acquire these certifications and become recognized as black belts after embarking upon the Six Sigma training program and completion of at least 2 projects, which will have significant impact on the bottom line. They will see improvement. Then black belt requirement projects which you have to come across is training in statistical method. First of all, you should know what is mean, median, mode, standard deviation analysis, regression, progression, and so many other tools which are used in statistics. That is part of this black belt requirement. That, of course, is a part of the component if anybody wants to go in for certification. Then time to conduct the project, they should be open for every weekend or something like that. Then softwares, which are the applications which are being used currently, one can gain knowledge into that. Then permissions to make required changes. The hospital doesn't allow any third party to interfere in the documentation. Interns are specifically prohibited to enter into the some kind of detailed analysis, especially the financial ones, So, but it can happen that with authorization, with certain amount of requirements, one can enter into such kind of agreements with authentic sources. And coaching by a champion, it requires some amount of guidance, so that it takes a long amount of 4 to 8 months for black belt Six Sigma certification to occur and implement. And the role is, once you have a black belt Six Sigma, then you are empowered in that sense, that what you meant to become you come out of every differentiated individual with much more prowess. And as the theorists have been saying for years, that you become an expert in a certain field, which Six Sigma people who are practitioners are telling that that role is important. No matter whether you shift from one industry to another industry, you have certification with you. So those champions are enablers. They are value enablers. They will enable you're able to enhance your value, and it's a value added course, you can say, and a value enhancing course whereby high level managers who are champions of Six Sigma projects, and they have the direct support from an executive management committee or even directly under the management. So they have to orchestrate the work of Six Sigma black belt eligible candidates, and they have to provide the black belts with necessary backing at the executive level. So right from top level management to the downline, people who have to assist them in terms of executing and implementing these ideas, because it's a brainstorming idea. Every hospital will have its own unique sense of discipline and core of action, daily routine changes. Those things can happen only when you enter into the context from where one has to become enabler. So the champion's role is measure and report the business impact. You have to measure them, give it to the top management, let the top management say something about it, and they will also have to have a feedback, lead the projects overall first, and then overcome resistance to change, which is very, very essential in most levels. Okay, so there is amount of change, resistance to that, which people either formally or informally they become distracted, or sometimes they refrain from talking in public, or sometimes they protest, or anything can happen. So how to deal with that kind of resistance when there is certain emergence of quality aspects into the operations, even without implications of financial benefits to the workers and all those things. Then you have to encourage, you have to create a culture which follows these aspects, wherein quality enablers or champions have to usher in a new era whereby everybody is falling in line with whatever newly instructed guidelines and manuals have been launched after the policies have been taken into consideration from these kind of models. Then towards the end, you have use Six Sigma DMAIC methodology, basic tools to execute the improvement within the existing job functions, may lead smaller improvement projects within business units, bring knowledge of Six Sigma concepts and tools with respective job functions, undergo 8 to 11 days of training over 3 to 6 months. Not that you have to stay there only. Initial training could be initially for just for knowledge purpose. Then the knowledge has to be taken some time for implementation, that is known as the green belt. So once that is over, just 8 to 11 days of training, then it can happen again and again at certain intervals, maybe at the weekends or something like, just like how we take these classes at weekend. Now, similarly, that green belt is also there. Other roles are like you become a subject matter expert, then you can also become an ad hoc member of Six Sigma project teams, and then you can be a surveyor, you can become an assessor, you can catch hold of certain organizations who want to implement these kind of things. Then in case of finance, of course, are altogether different. We're not talking about especially the financial figures right now. But assist it, they nevertheless, the financial components of initial business case and final cost benefit analysis is being done as a part of that overall roles in which you are playing, because it should reflect overall what benefits it is accruing. Okay. So to end up with this, they normally have a positive quotation that if you're an average black belt, proponents say that you will always find ways to save 1 million each year. So we are doing a lot of help to the organization to save a lot of money to the organization if you implement this. Raytheon figure spends, it says that it spends 25% of each sales dollar fixing the problems when it operates at 4 sigma, a lower level. Once a green belt, you know what is 1 sigma, 2 sigma, 3 sigma, we're just acquainting with that. So a lower level efficiency, but if it raises its quality and efficiency to 6 sigma, it will reduce the spending on fixes to 1%. So reduction in the spendings will also happen. Whatever reduction in spending is happening, that's invariably leading to profits. So the plastics businesses, through rigorous Six Sigma process work, in case of this, added 300 million pounds of new capacity equivalent to the free plant. Like for instance, if you have a solar plant which saves a lot of energy, they say that it's as good as planting the new trees. So it also saving a lot of money. So saved around $400 million in investment and will save another $400 million by 2000. That's what being told earlier. These are some of the quotations when it was launched earlier. The black belt, green belt, and all certifications are available. So I suppose we are at the end of the sessions. Any questions? So any case studies in hospital you can download, okay? Six Sigma in certain hospital. So that will give you a better improvement in the overall learning phase at which you are learning. No, this is just an introductory session on Six Sigma. This will give a overall skeleton framework within which we are talking, but it will not give realistic context in which people are working. So if you recently download a recent case study in which you can go to Google Scholar and try to download any hospital which has recently implemented Six Sigma, okay? So you can identify what all they were able to achieve over a period of time. So that gives a little more impetus if you do a little bit of self-study in terms of case studies, which Probably for those who are interested in certain areas, especially certain geographies in those related areas, or recent case studies, especially the ones which are published in very recently. Because Six Sigma has been there, as we have just now discussed, the history of Six Sigma goes back in 1700, 1800, 1818 and all those things. But then over a period of time, so many other developments may have also have happened. So you can go through other recordings on Six Sigma as well. Even that is a little bit more fundamental, towards a more fundamental side than from the case study perspective, but it will help you in order to get more knowledge on this as far as this course is concerned. Fine. Sorry, anybody else? Is there any assignment which you're submitting? Right. Can focus on assignments by into that. If you got any queries on assignments, probably we can talk about that in the upcoming sessions. All right. Achha, this PPT, okay. This PPT, I don't have the Google Drive, but I can share. Just wait, I'll see what I have. I have a related PPT, but nevertheless. So, uh, where it's going? Chat. Okay, just try. This is one example of Six Sigma. Okay, you can click on the chat box and okay, it's having access. Anyway, it will come to my email ID. Don't worry. As soon as it alerts me, I'll give the access because it was just not shared. It will take some time. You just at least 1 hour, I suppose. Quickly, access to all will be given. Even this PPT also access can be given, but along with that. I think automatically it will come because right now I have the link. Yes, yes, yes. I'm getting these emails. One by one, I'll give the link. Okay. All right. Thank you again. Just wait for some time, around half an hour, I'll give the accesses.